What up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Pretty Girl Progression Podcast. I am your girl, Sherelle. If you are new here, welcome. I hope you stay. And if you've been here before, girl, welcome back. And as always, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. If you're listening on any of the streaming platforms, girl, please hit the follow. And if you're watching visually on YouTube, make sure you hit the bell notification and also subscribe to the podcast. Because why? We want to be in your algorithm, okay? We want you to be able to hear more of the episodes and our great guests. So please do your girl a solid and hit the follow. Now, as always, y'all, I am bringing you another amazing guest. I'm actually really looking forward to this one, and I will tell you how I've stumbled upon her. Now, this woman is a financial consultant. She is a businesswoman. She is, I think, a Jill of all trades. Y'all, give it up for none other than Tiffani. Hey, Tiffani, how are you? How are you feeling today?
Hey, Sherelle, I am feeling fabulous, abundantly well. How are you?
I am amazing. It's been a busy week, but to God be the glory, I have made it through. So I'm excited to be here. So for people, let's just jump straight into it because I have a lot of questions. I've been scrolling your Instagram, but for people who don't know you or not familiar with you, how would you describe Tiffani?
That's a beautiful question, Sherelle. And I think you started off in the most excellent manner ever. And personally, for me, sometimes it's a little hard to describe myself because I'm so dynamic. There's so many things that, that are involved with my ways of being that just makes me such a fluid person. But I would say in the most simplest sense, I am a woman of humility. I am a God-fearing woman. I am a woman of passion, of pursuit, and of community development. And that pretty much sums it up.
Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. I felt that because the way I stumbled upon your page, I want to say it was like 1:00, maybe 2:00 in the morning on Instagram. And I don't even know how I caught you on algorithm, but you were on live. It looked like you were in some kind of office. It was a beautiful like high ceilings. I don't know, but you were just talking and you were talking everything about spirituality and manifestation and just business. And I'm like, I was locked in. Again, had no idea how I stumbled upon you. So I noticed that you are a financial consultant, and that really locked me in. But before we get into that, tell me about how you grew up.
Ooh, so, and when I say who, it was not like rough, but
Okay.
it's just that there is a lot to it. But I am the youngest of four, so I have two sisters and one brother. My oldest sister actually passed away in 2015.
Oof, that's tough. I'm so
Yes,
sorry to hear that.
thank you so much. She passed away in 2015 at the age of 22. And that really affected my life for the better. And I don't say for the worse, I say for the better because I really feel like out of certain events in our life that it really puts us in a place to where it develops us into our highest self, if that makes sense. And as unfortunate as some events may seem, there's blessings behind it. But the way that I grew up was I grew up in first what they call the ghetto, but it's no longer called the ghetto anymore. It's now gentrified. Watts, but they now call it Mid City. And my parents moved our family to this small suburban area of Downey. It's about 20 minutes on the outside of the actual city of Los Angeles. And there I grew up, going to the schools there, but then in the after school program, I would go to the Boys and Girls Club in the hood. So I grew up kind of with both worlds, but then in either world, I wasn't accepting. I was too, suburban for one community and too quote unquote ghetto for the other. But that really played a part in my being of being dynamic, so to speak. And I had a best friend who was Latina. I would go to her house and her family welcomed me with open arms, participated in the fiestas. And from there, I cultivated a passion for cultures. So that pretty much skyrocketed me into being curious about other cultures. And now today I'm fluent in 3 languages and I speak maybe 5. And it has been definitely a beautiful ride, a beautiful ride.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. Just, you weren't too much of this or that for your culture, the hood or being suburban, what they call. I was the same way. I grew up in the hood, but then I moved to Pembroke Pines. And in Florida, like Pembroke Pines was, a lot of white folks. So to me, that was my first time being surrounded by a lot of white people. And it was just definitely a culture shock, but I could understand because even me being Haitian, people couldn't understand, like, where is she from? Because I travel and because I've seen so many different parts of the world, it was always like, you're like a white black girl, whatever that means.
Right.
So I totally get that. But interesting enough, you talked about speaking different cultures, one of them being Korean.
Yes.
How did
Yes.
that come about?
So you mentioned culture shock, and I have went through many culture shocks in my childhood, my young adulthood, and one of them was the transferring of high schools. So growing up, I'm the youngest child. They say the youngest child is the most spoiled child,
For
and
sure.
it could also be the most responsible child.
For sure.
So I happen to be the most responsible child, but also the one who academics was placed very heavily on me. So and then sports on my older siblings. So when it was time for me to go to high school, my mom did not want me to go to Downey High School, which was the high school of the city we were living in, because they put a large emphasis on sports, but not on academics. And so I remember this like it was just yesterday. It was the summer of 2011. And we were looking into the top schools of California. It was either I was going to be homeschooled, or if there was a local school that was in one of the top schools, I would be placed there. So lo and behold, at that time, Cerritos, California had the #1 school in the state. It was an all honor school. I didn't end up going there though, because you had to live in the city to go there. So we went to the next best, which was Cerritos High School. And this is where the culture shock came in. First thing was Downey High School had about 6,000 students. Cerritos High School had 1,000 students in total.
Wow.
It was 80% predominantly Asian, because the city of Cerritos is mostly majority Asian. And that is where I took up both Spanish and Korean at the same time. And it was a beautiful experience, because I'm very grateful that the school was smaller. The teachers took more time with the students. And there was just so much that I'm grateful for. But
Yeah.
that is the story behind that.
I think that's so cool. I did want to ask you something because, and I want to just double back only because I am a sibling I have 3 siblings. Well, 4 I have 4 siblings. Sorry, sister. I was raised with my 3 brothers, with my mom and my dad. And then my little sister came along with my dad and my stepmom. And when you mentioned one of your siblings passing, like, my heart, one of my biggest fears. So I always want to know more about the grief process. And I wanted to ask, when you went through that, what is it that you really needed to maybe hear from your parents or people around you when your sibling passed?
Well, what I needed to hear was that you don't always have to be strong. You don't have to be the strongest of the family. We can be here to support you as well. But that's not the way, obviously, that's not what I heard. And it's not the way that it turned out to be. Um, and I'll touch back on that. But that is something that I need to hear, especially I was still a child, I think 17, 18, when my sister had passed away. And so I was taking on a lot. I was taking on being the rock of my family. I was taking on losing my best friend, having lost my best friend, like in the
Yeah.
whole entire world.
Yeah.
And I was also taking on being a full-time college student, and thinking about the financial future of my family. And then also potentially going to being an officer in the military, going to Air Force officer training. So there was a lot happening all within the same time. But of course, everything happens for a reason. And even though that was not something that I heard, that I didn't have to be strong, it taught me how to be strong.
Yeah.
And it also taught me that death isn't the end. That is what that experience taught me. But along the way, that led up to me pursuing this emotional journey or emotional intelligence journey that I've had over the last 2 years. So again, everything happens for a reason, but those are some of the things that I did not hear at that time.
You know, you talked about the emotional journey over the years because you give me a woman who is just so wise and so advanced beyond her years. And I know that's due to your upbringing as well as, you know, you transitioning in different schools and just travel. Transitioning into womanhood is not always easy. I come from a very hard, you know, background where my mother wasn't necessarily in my life, but my dad was always there. My grandma, my grandpa, like the village did village even without my mom being so present. And so when I did have like my first cycle and certain things, transitioning into womanhood was hard. So I'm always curious, you know, for other women, how is transitioning into womanhood for you?
I feel like there's stages for the womanhood. Like the first stage for me that I've ever that I experienced was, well, because I was the youngest, my mom would have the adult conversations with my older siblings, and I was right there. So she was like, "You're going to get this too," at the age of
No
7.
filter.
No filter. No, none at all. So that was the first stage of my womanhood. The second stage, of course, when we go into the menses and, becoming of age, so to speak, and that's around middle school, high school time, and dealing with um uh the pressure, the social peer pressure at schools of like, who should I be? That's an identity crisis. And I actually would love to talk about that more with younger girls, but that was a second stage. And I kind of battled that identity of like, do I continue being my natural self and who I am, or do I follow what all these other girls are doing around me in school, wanting to be the best dress, all this other kind of things that really didn't matter. And I recall, this is my third step into womanhood, at the end of graduate or when, at the end of 12th grade, about 2 weeks before we graduated.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I just had this aha moment. And I said, none of this stuff is going to matter. All these people that were the most popular in school, I would like to see where they would be in 5 to 10 years. And I'm not going to touch on that.
But hey, y'all, hope all is well.
Hey, y'all. Hey, hope all is well. But really, at the end of the day, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that I was able to come into that knowing at that time of being 16, 17 years old at the end of high school. From then on, I went straight into university, and I really kept to myself in a sense of I wasn't out there, dealing with having boyfriends. And I was just focused on school, becoming a trauma surgeon, which was my initial goal, and being an officer in the Air Force. So I was focused on structure, school, and where I was going to be in 10 years.
Yeah. You know, you talked about as far as like the identity crisis, especially, when we're 16 years old, we don't really know who we are, what's going on. At the time, we're thinking about boys, we're thinking about, like you said, like, being popular, maybe what sports you're going to do, homecoming, prom, all that jazz. So my question to you is, as far as being in high school, and I know you went through you didn't go through identity crisis, but women or young women at our age do go through these identity crises as far as popularity and, prom and boys and, transitioning into what womanhood is going to be. What advice would you give to a young woman going through those identity crises at that time?
Focus on the things that really matter would be the first thing. Be present. Be present where you are, and just be grateful for the moment in that age. And I know that that's something hard to do in the moment because there's so many other diverting factors that are around you at this time. But trust me, just as my parents used to say, you're gonna see when you get older. But focus on the things that matter. What are the things that you want out of life? And see, put a plan together, or maybe sit down with someone to at least discuss some of the applicable ways to get there, some of the steps it takes to get there to that position. You're going to have a husband if that's what you desire. You'll have a house if that's what you desire. You'll be able to travel the world. You can you can be best dressed and look as pretty as you want for the rest of your life. But right now, those are not things that are priority. Your education is priority. Your mind, your spirit, your soul, your love. And so don't let anyone else affect that and bring on any more hardships than you already have.
Yes, and so it is. I absolutely love that because I always say with Pretty Girl Progression, it's all about making a choice and making the decision to want better and do better for yourself. I would love for everybody to be able to just keep digging into like, yeah, you can do it, you can do it. But if you don't believe you can do it, nor do you want to do it, then how are you going to get it done? So I love that you said that, to focus on yourself and your education. So
Yes.
Tiffani, we before we get into what you actually do, because I have a lot of questions with that, okay, and I'm going to be taking my own notes. I want to play a little game called This or That. Can we play a little
Okay.
game?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to get into self-growth and lifestyle questions as well as money and success. And then you could just tell me why you chose the answer that you chose, okay? So confidence or inner peace?
Oh, Sherelle.
Come on, Tiff.
Okay. Inner peace.
Why?
Because with inner peace comes confidence.
Mm-hmm.
You can have confidence, but inner peace is not it's not a sub factor of confidence. You can be confident, like the confidence is the external factor, but the inner peace is that internal factor. And when you have that internal factor on lock, oh, the external is lined up. You don't have to worry about it.
I know that's right. And I always say it is nothing like having peace. On my whiteboard, I've had it for almost a year. Like I just want comfort, clarity, and peace. That's always my prayer. That's always what I desire. And it's nothing like it. Okay, so journaling daily or meditating daily?
Meditating daily.
And why?
Meditating daily. Because journal is included in meditation.
Mm-hmm.
But, a journal doesn't necessarily have to be physically with a pen and paper. I can journal by way of speaking out loud. Have you ever done that before?
I feel like it's just like, in a sense, like speaking things into existence. The power of the tongue is very real. So speaking life or death into the tongue.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I can write things on. So I've come to a point in meditation now where I can actually envision things as they are. So I can write in my mind. There's a whole nother, I don't want to get too woo woo, they say, but there's a whole nother rabbit hole.
Baby, I'm all about the woo woo, okay? I am all about it. My family be like, girl, but we're going to get into that because I'm all about it. All right, so let me ask you this. Multiple streams of income or a high paying career?
A high paying career.
Oh, why? I didn't think you were going to say that. Okay.
Because multiple streams, when I hear multiple streams of income, I hear $100, $5,000, $2,500. I don't hear stability in that. I don't hear certainty in that. And it sounds too scattered, which it is for most people who are trying to build multiple streams of income without having built one solid foundation first. So I say high paying career because it's stable. Now, lo and behold, a job may or may not fire you, in that case, that's different. But when you have that sense of security and you know that there's a steady income flow coming in and how to proportionize that, now you can go off and divert into those other streams of income. Maybe one of them is taking the knowledge that you're getting from your career, offering that as a coaching program, what they call selling your brain or selling your mind.
Oh, I like that. Selling your brain
Yes.
or selling your mind.
So
I
many,
love that.
so many things.
Because you know what, we're in a society where a lot of people look down on having a career or having a 9-to-5 job, and it's like so shameful or whatever. I didn't know when that became a thing, but that's where we are apparently. But then again, I digress. Okay, be a CEO or an inventor.
That's a good one. Okay, I will say be an inventor.
Mm-hmm. Now, why an
Be an
inventor?
inventor.
I know why.
You know why?
Well, not for you. Your answer,
Oh,
no. For me, I'm like, yes, inventor. Mm-hmm.
yes. I say be an inventor because to just be a CEO is about image. Being the head of something, the head of a company. Okay, that's great. That might be now. Let me say, if that is your skill, now follow your zone of genius. I read this in a book. Your zone of genius. If your zone of genius is operational management and being a top leader in a group setting, by all means, CEO. But I say inventor because there's a lot of internal work with being an inventor, and you go through a lot of processes in terms of building the business, being the CEO, understanding how the business works, and really building like this beehive
Yes.
all together. But not only that, you're putting out a new idea to be in support of the world when you
Absolutely.
invent something. So there's global impact on that potentially. So that's what I say.
Absolutely. That's exactly how I would have, well, not verbatim, but how I would have phrased it too. Because to me, it's like a one of one, you're cemented in history for being an inventor. So I would absolutely agree. Okay, so last question. Let's go build a legacy or live in the moment.
I can't build a legacy. I'm living in the moment. Build a legacy. Build a legacy.
Absolutely.
Build a legacy.
Absolutely. I love build a legacy because my biggest thing is I'm going to have 50 acres of land. To me, that's legacy, like building Pretty Girl Progression, because that's what God called me to build something with women, not just in the city, but the world. But my biggest legacy is just to like have 50 acres of land, keep it in my family's trust. It just continue to grow and flourish and just make a name for ourselves. So legacy for sure. Speaking of legacy, let's talk about LegacyCon, your baby. So for those who don't know about LegacyCon, tell us more.
So LegacyCon is the first and ever financial conference out in Los Angeles, California for us, by us. And when I say us, it's just not, sisters like yourself and myself that have this color skin.
Mm-hmm.
It really is for all of the underserved people of humanity that look differently than you and I. But I say that because LA is a diverse place.
Yes.
We have the Latinos, we have the Asian Americans, we have the Blacks, we have, poor whites. Mm-hmm. And there are individuals in every community, every race and ethnicity that have not gotten the proper financial education and literacy on how to create wealth, not only for themselves, but also create that legacy.
For sure.
So that's what the Legacy Conference was all about.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk more on that. How did that come about? Like initially, was it something that you were in your room? It came to you during prayer. How did that actually come about?
I love that. So when I decided to take deeper steps into being emotionally intelligent, and what that really means, let me just break it down instead of using the phrase.
Please.
What that really means is being in touch with who I am and my mission and my vision for myself, but also for the world. How am I showing up for other people with the gifts that I have? Because these gifts are not my own. They are to be used. For example, I was just listening to Janae Eiko and I was thinking in my head, like, thank you, Janae Eiko, for putting your voice out there, blessing people like me and other people with your voice to help us through, hard times, have a peaceful day in life. Yes. But had she not put time into that, we wouldn't have that gift, right? Her gift in our life. And so with the Legacy Conference, the way that had come about was I had gone through my emotional intelligence training, and I was at the end in the third level. It's called Legacy, but that's not where I got the name from. In Legacy, we got to create a vision for ourselves, for the community, spirituality, mentality, finances, etc. A vision and the steps. And in my section for community, I put that I wanted to develop a conference, have a conference of, a set number of people and talk about this. This is what I wish to get back. Uh, and so that's how that came about. It really was within the span of about 4 to 5 weeks. I had just got back from Atlanta before I moved here. I went to InvestFest and I had the idea, the thought. This is how manifestation works and how you can really bring your vision into reality. Like you can pull it towards you.
Absolutely.
No such thing as time. Did you have to wait 2 years, 5 years? No. I was at a networking event at Marvin Mitchell's place here in Atlanta, and I saw this guy, and he was like by himself in the kitchen. And I was like, I'm gonna go talk to this guy. I start talking to him. His name is Jamal Walker. He hosts events nationally around the country. And as we got to talking, I got to hear his vision and he heard my vision about the conference. And he said, let's put it together. I'll be your first speaker.
Wow.
And I'll also support you with putting the event together. That's how God works. And that's how it works when you desire something and you are taking, doesn't have to be big steps, just little, tiny, small steps simply by a conversation.
Absolutely.
That's how that came about. And within 4 to 5 weeks, the conference.
Absolutely. It doesn't take a lot of steps. Like God moves in a a magical way, when it came to even with my producer with rebranding the podcast, I remember being on my other podcast with a co-host of mine, and I was just speaking about my truth and the things that I was going through. And he actually came to me and was like, I want to help you. And then it turned into God told me to help you. So, brick by brick, building slowly, and I absolutely love that you said that. Now, you spoke of having the third step within the LegacyCon. Can you speak of the other 2 steps?
The other 2 steps before I got to the Legacy Conference? Yes. So, you mean the legacy training?
The legacy training. Sorry. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, yes. So it's an emotional intelligence and leadership training.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I am a part of the supporting group that's putting one on here in Atlanta, Georgia.
Cool.
So the first one's going to be in June, but the one that I went to was out in Culver City, near Los Angeles. And the first step is basic. And really what that is like a basic surface level of you tapping into yourself. It's a fun training. It's not where you have to like sit and take notes all the time. It's very interactive. You have dyads, which is like a conversation like you and I, if we're in partnership.
Mm-hmm.
You have group settings, you have meditations, some journaling, some homework, and fun games. And so I did that. Then I went to the second one, which was advance. And advance is getting beneath the surface level of your emotions. But really at the root of it is relationships. So if we take a look at every single relationship in our life, our mother, our father, a friend, there could be some sort of blocks there, or I guess ways of how do I say it? Ways of resistance between those relationships. But how do you clarify that relationship? And what do you need to get through in order to do it? Mm-hmm. Now, it doesn't mean the other person has to be clarified with you. It's only that you are clarifying with them. And so with that, you create that inner freedom, inner flow, inner peace. And that's when creativity comes out. That's when the energy comes out, the love. And love is one of the highest frequencies that you can embody when you are out in the world. Love.
Oh, absolutely. Oh my goodness. Okay, so let me ask you this, because I was at InvestFest, so that's probably how you came up on my algorithm. But how can people be a part and support LegacyCon?
Yes, so you can follow at the LegacyCon on all platforms. That's Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And we are looking forward to having our next events. I won't say what they are yet. We took a hiatus for 2024 just because I'm very big on if it doesn't feel right, then I'm not going to force it.
Absolutely.
So there is, just stay tuned. The LegacyCon, stay connected, and we'll be posting some updates there. And you can follow me as well, and I'll be doing collaborative posts.
Absolutely. You guys, I'll have everything in the description. Okay, don't worry. I got you. So let's speak about financial consulting. Now, when people hear financial consulting, to me, I think people think, well, I don't have the money, so I don't even want to hear about it. But what really got you into financial consulting, and how do you help people when it comes to finances?
Yes. So I'll start with, I changed it to consulting because a lot of my clients and non-clients came to me on a consultative standpoint.
Okay.
Before it was financial planner, and before it was just financial services agent. But how I got there, I actually was a real estate professional out in Los Angeles for 6 years, selling
What?
homes, being very supportive in that way. But it was the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, but also the educational side of me giving back to the community for how to build wealth. And so through that, I got to learn the ins and outs processes of real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So it came to a point where in 2023, to be specific, July 2023, I had my last real estate sale in Laurel Canyon. And it was great. I supported all of the families that I've supported, gave them the keys, but I felt like something was missing. That was the first thing. I wasn't all the way fulfilled. I didn't feel like I was living up to my gifts in fullness. And I was also working 24/7. And that's also something that I did not wish for myself or desire. So I'm calculated before I take any steps. And I ask myself, what is the exit strategy of being a real estate agent? The only two is to become a broker, build a team. Maybe that would alleviate some time. Or, get into investing myself. Or stay a solo agent. And those three things were not right at that specific time. So that's when I decided to go into basic of that training that I was sharing with you. That was July 2023. And from there, I got clarity in my path, in my vision, my gifts, all that transpired. And so at the end of that, I wrote down 4 things. I wrote down financial advisor, coach, public speaker, life insurance. Those are 4 things I wrote down on my whiteboard. And I said, okay, I know that my gifts can show up in any one of these 4 categories. But I just need to choose one because I also need to earn a living. I need to make money as well. So I already have my life insurance licenses. When I said, why don't I take that extra step into that financial advisory role, so that I can create comprehensive plans rather than just a life insurance plan. And that's what I did. And I've been showing up and out ever since.
I feel like, your spirituality had to be at the forefront, because when people hear real estate agent, mind you, sidebar, I definitely went to real estate class like twice. And the first time I just wasn't prepared. I was serving tables and then thinking that I can do, a few weeks of real estate school and pass. And that was an epic fail. And then the other time, I ain't gonna hold you, I did try to cheat on the test because everybody else was doing it in class and I still failed. Okay. But a lot of people hear real estate and they think I'm going to make a lot of money. Like, this is the way to go. But what I'm hearing from you is that you wanted to be purposeful and like be spirit led. So you decided to go another route. To people who kind of struggle with the money versus being purposeful, what would you say to them?
That's the other thing that I wrote down too. Impact over money.
Impact over money.
So my first 2 years, actually it was impact over income, excuse me. I wrote that impact with the greater than sign.
Yes.
Impact over income. In my first 2 years of real estate, I didn't make any money. I was still full-time in school. But after that 2-year mark, I decided to go full-time in real estate. After the 2 years of not making any money, I said, something's got to give. Okay. I need to give it some more time. Maybe I'm not putting enough time into it. And once I did that, things took off. Before I left real estate, I was at the height of my financial income. I've had $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 months. But that's why I said, at that point, even at that point, something was still missing. This is why money will never be the answer. You can talk to multimillionaires, billionaires, and they may have all the money, but they may not be happy, satisfied, or fulfilled in life. So that's what led me on the path of my discovery of what was fulfilling.
Yeah.
And how should I exactly show up? When you're not achieving fulfillment, it's also because you're not using your gifts. You're not being who you are, who you were called here to be. I meditated the other day and I heard clearly, at clear as day, as you and I talking right now, in my head, because that's how it happens.
Yes.
But it's a higher self talking to me. And she said, "Are you ready for your calling?" That was just the other day. But I've gotten to the quote unquote median or higher income monthly levels, but still at that point, you don't have everything. The money is not all. Money is just a sub factor.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love how you said you were listening to your higher self. A lot of the times I think that we're in this little space in our life and we think, well, I can't give financial advice or I can't do X, Y, and Z because I don't necessarily have the tools, but it's your higher self calling you to that. So you're more than equipped. I think it definitely takes time and patience with yourself and giving yourself grace, but for sure, your higher self is speaking to you. I love that you said that. For me, when I was in Dubai back in 2012, mind you, I was working at the Clevelander Hotel on South Beach. Okay. So if you could just imagine what South Beach is like back then, a time was had. And I was making the most money I thought I ever made, but I was blessed to go to Dubai. And my boyfriend at the time, his mom said to me, Sherelle, you got to do your personal work. So while I'm sitting in the desert, and mind you, at this time, I mean, my grandpa is a pastor. I went to church because that's just what we did every Sunday, but I never really had a relationship. And God spoke to me so clearly, the same way you say, the way we're having a conversation, and was saying, you're going to do something with women, not just in a city, but the world. And after that, I had no idea what that was going to look like. I ended up, giving my life to Christ and just moving in a way where, how is this going to serve you, Lord? Like, how am I going to be able to move in a way that's going to make you proud and fulfill what you have for me? And ever since then, I've been on a journey, girl. Okay. I've been on a journey. So to anybody who's out there who really, you don't know what your purpose is and you're not sure what to do, definitely be centered in your relationship with God, whoever you deem God to be. And you're going to be all right. You're going to be all right. I know that we have entered, because I, looked on your page, we've entered into Ramadan, and you are very faith-based. Everything you talk about is very centered around faith. How important is faith to you, especially when it comes to your friendships, partnerships, and what is the biggest thing that you've learned as far as faith and purpose?
I've always been a child of God.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for asking this question. This is a very deep one. But I've always been a child of God, and I knew that God was always in my life, and that we had a connection. I just wasn't as connected with him as I am now, as I was back then. And so faith has to be built. But in order for it to be built, you have to go through circumstances. And this is why in my faith, or my religion, so to speak, Islam, they say trials are for purification.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we go through a struggle or we go through a trial, what God is doing is he's manifesting. He's bringing out our weaknesses, but he's also manifesting our greatest strengths to bring us into a higher level of perfection. It's continually and gradually getting into that perfected state, which is the higher self. So my faith was not always strong. And because it was not always strong with myself in my belief in God, but also within my relationships. And this became known to me just last September. Well, I'll say around this time last year in March was really when, I moved here to Atlanta. And this is the first time in my early stages of life that I've really had the opportunity to be on my own and grow on my own in solitude, like in full effect.
Yeah, because your
When I was
family's in
out in LA,
LA.
yes, but when I was out in LA on my own, I still have family there, and family, when you're closer, somehow they bombard you more.
Hello.
So, loving, just a loving explanation. But being in another state is a different type of solitude.
Yeah.
So, and I love numerology as well because the numbers of my unit, when I add them all together and bring them to a single digit, it's a number 7.
Mm-hmm.
And the number 7 is the number of God.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
It's very
it is.
spiritual.
Yes, it is.
And so everything aligned. But getting back to faith itself, it has to be built and must be built. And in order for it to be built, you have to go through circumstances and struggles for God to really show you his power.
Yes.
He's waiting for us. He's waiting for us to, to welcome him with open arms so he can show how powerful he really is.
Absolutely. I've said it so many times on this show that God is such a gentleman and God's not going to force himself on you, but he's right there. He's right there and he got you. As far as now you living in Atlanta, really being on your own, what has been your biggest challenge being on your own?
Yes, so solitude can be a blessing and a curse in disguise. Well, I wouldn't say a curse because God is the best of planners and all knowers.
Absolutely.
But it can be a hindrance at the same time. I'm very blessed to have the solitude here in Atlanta, but also the other side of that is when you are becoming a better person, you're getting to that higher level, that solitude can kind of make you feel a little lonely. And I wasn't having as much social interaction as I used to have. So that's been one of my experiences. But now that's taken care of. I have a sisterhood now. I have so many new acquaintances that I can, call on. And Atlanta just really has a lot going on. I try not to get too much in the in crowd, but there are a lot of events and just a lot of abilities and opportunities.
Yeah.
To network.
I feel led to ask this, to the young women who don't meditate a lot and have no idea where to start. What are, let's say 3 tips you would give as far as just grounding? I speak a lot about grounding, just coming into yourself because the answers are always within. What advice would you give or tips would you give to a young woman or older woman who needs that little coaching?
Yes, 3 tips for grounding. Number 1, I would say, is find a quiet space. It could be anywhere. It could be your car.
Yes.
It could be in the break room of your job. In the bathroom. I once on TikTok, I believe a few weeks ago, I saw a mom. She was hiding behind the refrigerator from her children.
It'd be like that.
But a quiet space. Second thing is breath work, breathing. Find that solitude in breathing. Be present and pay attention to how fast your heart may be beating. Bring it down. And then third, I would say, is to give yourself positive affirmations. Be kind to yourself. Now that can be overlooked a lot because people think that, affirmations, I have to say them every single morning. Like, no, it can just be right in the moment. Like, you know what? I am enough.
Yeah.
I am love.
Absolutely.
I am peace. Whatever it is that you feel called to say that what you need in that moment.
Do you think it's a wise thing to say it even if you don't believe it?
Yes, because in order for you to believe it, you have to say it and you have to repeat it multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
You have to repeat it multiple times. If you don't say it, if you don't get it out, how could you ever believe it?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with faith. How you do one thing is how you do everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So.
I wanted to, because we're going to wrap up soon, but you talked a lot, and I know I'm going a little backwards, y'all, but there's certain things I need to ask. You talk a lot about trust, right? And getting a life insurance policy. I hope that I have that right. Can we talk a little bit about that? Because I'm in a space, should have done this. Let's talk about trust and life insurance policy. You talk a lot about the Rockefellers. Let's get into that, please. What's the biggest thing that you want people to know as far as life insurance policies and, a trust?
That it can be affordable and it doesn't have to be difficult. That's it.
As simple as that. Jeez.
It's simple. Keep it simple. Are there people that you care about? And also, do you care about yourself?
Yes, and yes.
Because people think that the only life insurance policies that exist are the ones that are just for, your legacy when you pass on, and you don't get any benefit from that. It's for them. Well, obviously, if you love and you care for them, it's great to have it. But there's also another type of policy where you can have the benefits yourself too while you're still alive.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, again, what the Rockefellers did in order to create that sustainability in the wealth they have. So a lot of corporations, even the banks, okay, all of the well-known banks that we know today, JP Morgan, down the list, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not sponsoring yet. So
okay.
but all of the banks, big corporations, even universities and Disneyland, Walt Disney.
Yeah.
All of these well-known things, they use life insurance policies to get ahead, but most specifically, for example, whole life policies that have cash value attached to them. And so what they did with these policies, and they still do it today, is they take these policies and they get one on themselves, they get one on their business, they get one on key employees, they get one on their children, and they put these policies into a trust. So now the trust is the beneficiary of the policy, not them personally, individually. And what they do is, while they're still alive, they take money from the policies, which is coming out of the trust. They use that to go to school, open up a business, fund their ideas or inventions, invest in other business, whatever the case may be, invest in real estate. And they put that money back in the trust, so now it's becoming their own bank, and they just rinse and repeat. Now, how can we get started?
Yes.
On the most
that was my next question. Yes.
Yes, the most simplest basis. Number one, I'll say is, first of all, are you protected? Do you have life insurance? Because it's only going to get the more expensive the older you get. And of course, with statistics, the older that you get, there may be some ailments that a person may incur. So as young as you are and as healthy as you are, that's the best time to get it. And get what's affordable for you at that time. Boom. You just started a 6-figure legacy right there. That's the most simplest and easiest way.
Okay.
Now, if we want to go the next step, the next level, if you have children or you have a little bit more room to set aside every month, I would then say get a whole life policy for yourself and or your loved ones. Then I would say get that trust. Then I would say, now we're getting into that process of, where do I invest my money that's accumulating?
Yes.
Can I get into real estate when it's a good time? What type of real estate should I buy? There's different types of ways to get into real estate. You can purchase tax lien properties for pennies on the dollar. You can do seller financing, which is you don't have to go straight to the bank. You can negotiate with the person selling their property face to face and say, hey, I'll pay you $1,000 a month for this property. Okay, I'm 81 years old. I don't mind.
So we talked a lot about trust and real estate and different things in that genre. I picked up wholesale real estate in 2020. A friend, my brother's best friend, mentioned it. And when you talked about seller financing, I was like, okay, this is how people can really I didn't end up closing my deals. It definitely was a process, but that's something that I want to get into. Where can people really find more information when it comes to this? I know we have Google, but is there any courses or anything as far as what you offer that you would love to teach more on this, where they can reach out to you?
Yes, I actually have a book. It's an ebook.
Yes.
And, inshallah, which just means God willing, I'll be printing it soon.
Yes.
But it is a book that I do have, and it's called How to Get Wealthy Through Life Insurance and Real Estate.
Yes.
Okay. How to get wealth through real estate and life insurance. I go through all the breakdown, every single avenue through real estate that you can utilize, just as the brother out in Texas did, and also through real estate, how we can rinse and repeat the process that the Rockefellers utilized to obtain and sustain.
Congratulations on the book, girl. Listen, that's no small thing. I know I have an ebook, so I know it takes time to make sure you get everything done. So congratulations in advance for that, for sure. My last question for you, which I love to ask guests, because I feel like it ages very like fine wine. What does pretty girl progression mean to you when you hear it?
Mm. I love that you asked this question because I was repondering on the name earlier today. And I'm big for looking at the meaning of words to get to the root in the definition. But when I see pretty girl progression as I hear it, I think stages, the stages of life. I see not only a pretty girl, a beautiful woman, beautiful girl on the outside, but mainly on the inside. She shines on the inside, and that light on the inside, like, just exudes through her. And with that and the progressive stages of life, I see that every other woman around her, she is inspiring to be a part of that pretty girl progressive life as well.
Oh my
So that's what I
gosh.
see when I hear pretty girl progression.
Absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head because I always said, oh my gosh, I don't want people to be confused of the pretty part, you know. I'm all about the inside beauty that shines the most because you can be beautiful outside but have an ugly inside. So thank you. You hit it right on the head. Tiffani, thank you so much for sitting down with little old me. Like, this is why social media is so powerful because I've never met Tiffani in person, but I gravitated towards your live. So keep doing what you're doing. You are impacting the community. I love that you speak of we all the time. So thank you for all that you do. If you want to leave with anything, if you want to leave the community of women with any words of advice, words of wisdom, please, the floor is yours.
The last thing that I will leave the ladies with, the sisters all around the world,
Yes.
is know what you need. And in order to know what you need, you have to go within. And that's within all things. I talk about the all areas of my life. And when I say this for myself, that's spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, financial. Know what you need. And for you, Sherelle, directly to you, I would like to say that I acknowledge you for being the leader that you are. I acknowledge you for your love, your heart, your passion, your courageousness, your tenacity, and never giving up.
I received that. Thank you. Oh, don't make me cry, Lord have mercy. Okay. I appreciate you, Tiffany, because I will. I'm a crybaby. So, y'all, thank you. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Leave in the comments below how much you enjoyed it, the gems that you learned from it. I'm going to put all of Tiffany's bio and description in the description below, y'all. And as always, Queen, make sure you are liking the episode, and as always, love yourself.